Hey, hi, ho, and a ding dang do. Welcome to Midas Letter Live for this Thursday, July 20, whatever the hell it is. I started my day smoking a CBD vape pen, and I had a bounce in my step all the way to work. Let me just start there. You'll notice this chair is empty. Special Ed is late, missing in action. We don't know where he is. We know he's going to be here at some point. But I am very excited about today's show, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because our new West Coast correspondent, as he is now officially known, Justin B. Marshall, is going to join us today live from his research garden facility just outside of Carmel on the Sea, I think it's called Carmel by the Sea, California, in Monterey County. So we're going to hit him at about 3:15. We're having some technical issues, so it should be more entertaining than just watching a normal sort of TV broadcast. But we're going to have some banter back and forth with Ed after I read the news. And if Ed isn't here, then I'm going to banter with Ed as if he was here, and I'm going to provide Ed's answers at the same time. No, I don't think that's going to be very good. We also have Alison Gordon here today. Alison is the CEO of, hold on, I just had a technical issue. 42 North. 42 North. She is one of the leading women in the cannabis space, and she is also going to be more of a regular personality around here, I like to think. Perhaps I delude myself. What else we got today? We have Matt Bottomley, who is the cannabis analyst from Canaccord Genuity. Yes? 48 North. I said that. 42 North. 48, 42 plus 6, 48 North, not 42 North. Apparently I've got that wrong. Yay! It's so great not to be, rigid in TV world and be able to basically screw up just as frequently as we like to and try to maintain the attention. So yeah, Alison's going to be here at 3:30-ish. We're going to have Matt Bottomley here at probably closer to 4. Ed Milewski, special Ed Milewski, is going to be here at some point. Whoa! And he walks in the door. Here he comes, just a walking down the street, singing do-a-diddy-diddy-dum, diddy-dum. Nobody can hear you, Ed. Whoa! What's going on with the earpiece suddenly?
Anybody see me?
Yeah. Okay, that's better. Thank you. Thank you for not blowing out my eardrum. Jesus, stop it! Okay, we have real technical issues here. The technical issue stems from the fact that somebody in the sound room has got 3,000 decibels of static coming through this earpiece. Any ideas there, Suzanne, why this is just blasting? Because Ed's mic is on. Because Ed's mic is not on. I'm turning this off. How are you doing, Ed? Oh, we can't talk to you yet. Here, Ed, use sign language. How are you doing? Ed says he's fine and he's having a good day. He can't wait to be on the show. He'll be with us shortly. What is going on with this?
For the viewers that I just heard.
Oh yeah, you heard it or you wrote it?
I heard it. What?
You gotta pull off the set there and get all wired up for sound.
Right back. Oh, look at the shoes.
Yeah. Suzanne's also wearing wonderful shoes here today.
Oh, got so much room in there.
So, and apparently they're very roomy. Anyway, so I'm just going to start reading the news here. Ed will get organized at some point. The news is kind of interesting today too, because T-God, who is one of our near and dear sort of companies, we don't own it, but theoretically we have some stock coming to us for some people we sent their way, but that has yet to materialize. Just saying. The city of Hamilton ordered work to stop on T-God's unauthorized medical greenhouse in Ancaster. Whoa.
Say it ain't so.
It's so.
Say it ain't
it's so. It is so that they've actually sent people down there to make sure they don't keep going. So I don't know. T-God's gone a little rogue on us here, which is kind of fun. I actually reached out to Vice President of Corporate Development, Brett Allen.
T-God gone rogue.
T-God gone rogue. T-God now stands for the Green Organic Destroyer?
Delinquent?
Delinquent. Whoa! Did you just say that about a Canadian listed cannabis stock? No, come on.
Come on.
You can say that about American listed ones.
Well, you said D stands for
No, and I came up short, didn't I?
detached.
Yeah. How are you doing today? Why are we so late? What are you trying? What are you?
You know what?
Trying
You
to
know
throw
what?
your weight around here?
Fashionably late. Fashionably late.
Fashionably late. That was quite fashionably late. You were only a couple minutes late.
Just as you were about to say, Ed Milewski was going to show up. What happened?
In the door you walked.
We set it up, folks.
We did. We planned it that way.
So I sort of got on a phone call, but I think I'm going to just throw this joke out here.
In the middle of the news.
In the middle of the news. What do you call a chameleon that can't change color?
A chameleon that can't change color. I don't know.
A reptile dysfunction.
Oh, that is good. That is very good. Who came up with that?
Well, our friend, again from Kelowna, Mr. Blady.
Mike Blady's in
Mike
town?
Blady called, no, he just called me to tell me that.
Oh.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
He called me.
Jeez.
Because I think he knew he was going on the show, and he said, this will pick it up.
Yeah, I see. Sounds like he wants you to talk a bit about G-Tech.
G-Tech had a nice little bounce yesterday, about 9%, 10%.
Really?
Took it all back
Any
today.
idea why?
The sellers were sleeping? No, just...
The sellers were on vacation?
Yeah, and just as I have a list in one of my pages of my stock.
A page out of Stock's Ed book? Ed's stock book? A page out of...
Anyway, it's all marijuana and related companies. And there's 36, I think, on the page.
Right.
And this morning, before I left to get on the train to come to Toronto to spend time with my friend James West, 4 were unchanged.
Unched?
4 were up slightly, and
like
the rest
jargon.
were down. So the carnage continues, it looks like, here in Weedland.
No.
Weedland.
No. Okay, we're going to cut to the chart. Let's look at the chart. The news is boring. Let's just go to the chart.
Yeah, you know, I think...
Who cares about the news? The news is old news. These days, the news...
You know what? There was a sign on a used clothing store, and you know what it said?
Newsed?
New to you.
New to you. Boy, and were the clothes inexpensive? They were pre-owned?
Well...
Okay, let's go to cannabis here. We'll come back to the news. We have lots of time for the news. The news is not the thing. Cannabis is the thing. Let's go look at the cannabis. Oops. Okay, we're going to click on... Oh, look at that. We're up on firing on all cylinders. Oh, that's interesting. But to get to the cannabis... Oops, that's not the one I want. Boy, I'm having erectile dysfunction.
Somebody sent me a 10-year chart of Aurora.
Oh, 10-year?
A 10-year, yeah.
How could they have a 10-year chart?
Well,
it's impossible. Well, look at that. You are quite right, Ed. The Midas Letter Large Cap Index is down 1.41%. These are all companies listed in Canada trading over $500 million market cap. I bet you some of them might have even slipped below that. We'll go to the index page.
Now, and look at the smaller ones. They're even down more.
Yeah. Okay, we'll reorder this by, who's down the most. T-God's down the most. Obviously, they're getting slapped with the ugly stick because of this evolving situation where they've been shut down from building their expansion greenhouse in Ancaster. That's going to continue to hurt them, I think.
And just looking at that list, you can see all the money moving swiftly into Aphria. Aphria's up a whopping 0.57%.
Well, at least Aphria is the only one that's green.
Yeah, there you go. I'll tell you.
Aurora Cannabis down 1.3%. Canopy Growth down 1.2%. So,
Look at Oxley. Oxley, a former cannabis wheat in there.
Oxley's been taking it really hard, right up the poop chute. Like, seriously, it's been bad.
Up the where?
up the yin yang. They've been getting really serviced without benefit of lubrication.
Serviced
in the most
they don't want to be serviced. They're getting serviced. We didn't come here for servicing.
Stop servicing me. This is starting to hurt.
I'm not here for service. I'll come back tonight after I had some marijuana.
Ed, this is a G-rated show. We don't want to talk about servicing here. We want to talk about
G-rated. Look now, that chart.
Sorry, I got to go.
Okay.
I got to go to, if we're going to look at charts, I got to keep remembering we have to use Firefox because That's the only thing that gives us the full picture that is reliably able to
Firefox.
go.
I use Firefox. on
Firefox is the
occasion.
only one that's able to go.
I like their icon. It's a very interesting Firefox. It's
the Fox.
a world that's on fire.
We
Or a
we
fox
went by
that's
the
on
Firefox office in Santa Monica, or where? No, it wasn't in Santa Monica. I think it was in Hollywood, West Hollywood, and it was right next to Google. It was attached to Google, a Google office, and we were like, wait a second here.
Whoa.
Wait a second.
Whoa.
That doesn't look right.
I
Okay.
tell you, that Oxley chart, and we were there just for a moment.
Yeah.
It looks, again, I'm not commenting on management. This is just the technical side. I'm just saying it does not look good. It looks like it's going to eventually grind back down to, sub 50 cents.
Yep. Okay, well, interesting. Here's other news that we're not seeing today, that
Right.
the Green Organic Dutchman has added an IBM veteran to its staff.
Right.
But wait a sec here.
I wonder what
no.
his stipend would be.
Oh, let's see. Does it say? It should say something about options. But he's joining as the Chief Operating Officer?
Chief Information Officer.
Chief Information Officer.
CIO.
CIO.
The
Well,
CEO, COO, CIO.
I wonder if the in the shutdown in their expansion and the lack of a permit had to do with a breakdown in the flow of information within the organization. Thus, the announcement of this information officer to sort of create the impression that maybe this was some breakdown in the flow of information. That would explain it. I mean, how else could
You got to, like you and I understand that we're not major marijuana shareholders. Like,
who's not? Have I not been cutting you in, Ed? Boy, oh boy, where's my vape pen? This is causing.
Wait.
sorry, I didn't.
Oh.
Were you out of the room when that deal was going on?
Oh, okay. Apparently, half of us aren't big marijuana shareholders.
Well, some of us are bigger than others, I suppose.
Well, I guess that's true in all facets of life.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Some people have very big shoes. for
Some
instance.
people don't really get that big until they're excited. Just saying, some people.
And you notice excited ends with Ed.
Ed, I notice everything in the past ends with Ed. Excited, bored, flummoxed. Anyways, so yeah, it looks like
Stimulated.
the T-God is getting beaten with the ugly street stick, good
Ugly
and hard
stick.
today.
Good and hard.
I saw an interesting comment in Reddit today. Somebody posted, "Where's that Wolf of Weed Street guy now on the T-God?" I guess.
I know. Well,
yeah.
you know what? How quickly they've fallen. Or
How the mighty fall.
how the mighty fall.
Oh, shoot, Skype with Justin. Oh, okay. Good news, Ed. You're not going to have to talk very much in this next segment, nor am I, because we have live from California, our West Coast correspondent, coming to you from Carmel, California, and Monterey County. It's Justin B. Marshall.
I thought you were going to say Justin Bieber.
No, it's Justin B. Marshall.
Hello. James.
Any minute now, we're going to have Justin B. Marshall.
Is B an
Wait,
initial?
to turn this on.
Okay, well, we don't have any video going here.
Right here.
Here it comes.
Here it comes.
Here it comes.
Here she comes, just a walking down the street, singing do a diddy dum diddy dum. Walk fine,
here we go.
look square. Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
Oh,
Can you see?
there he is.
Oh, having a little.
Whoa, he's got a little
smoking
spliff going there.
Little, is that a spliff or a blunt?
This is a split.
This is a split. Oh, wait a sec, we got to turn him on now.
There you go.
See,
boy,
we can
oh
hear
boy.
him.
Look at this. This is
We can
so
hear him
cool.
in here, Ed.
Okay.
How can you hear us, Justin?
I can hear you fine, James.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, there we go.
We can hear you
I'm
perfectly
Ed,
now.
by the way. Glad
This
to meet
is
you.
special Ed Milewski, Justin.
Ed, it's very nice to meet you. I've been watching you every day.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
So Justin, where are you sitting right now? It looks like you're sitting in a marijuana forest.
Yes, today I'm in my experimental garden, and this is where we create new strains. We've been developing strains for about 10 years now, and what we do is we cross mildew-resistant strains with strains that either have a very high THC or a very high CBD. And we're able to develop strains that in the future will be very popular.
I think that sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean,
there's a real scientific bent here, isn't there?
Oh yeah. Like, so for Ed's sake, there, Justin, why don't you tell him why you're growing these different types of marijuana? What are you doing with them?
Ed, I'm trying to heal people globally, and right now we're starting in the state of California since it's legal here. And 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with late stage 4 cancer, and the doctors gave me 1 month to live. That night, I learned how to make cannabis oil, and I've been taking it and making it ever since. Within 6 months, all my cancer died, and now I'm making that same oil for other people, as well as other products, such as skin creams, dog treats, just a wide range of products for people to help them and their pets heal.
You got to be kidding me.
Wow.
That's unbelievable.
That sounds like that's a medical marvel.
That's wow. So you basically conducted a clinical trial on yourself as a stage 4 suffering from cancer. Like, holy cow, that's like back from the brink in the most profound way.
And how did you select what strain of cannabis? Did it matter, or how, did you was it heavy in CBD versus THC, or you just took whatever you had available?
That's a great question, Ed. Actually, I was in Medicine Hat, Alberta, Canada when I was diagnosed. And I learned how to make the oil there, but I was not able to access the large amount of cannabis I needed. So I caught the next flight down here to California, and I picked up 2 pounds of Fire OG. And Fire OG is a strain that works best for colon cancer. Many strains work on many different diseases. So I was able to make a lot of oil out of Fire OG, and all my cancer died.
No kidding. Wow.
Well, I did. That's really, and I sometimes make light of a lot of things, but this is really touching. It really is an emotional epiphany.
Yeah.
And look at you. You're just making sure that cancer stays away. I wish I was sitting there next to you, as a matter of fact.
Well, we're going to go down and visit Justin. Justin's invited us to come and visit him, and he's going to show us his operation.
I'm in.
Okay.
I'm in. Justin, I'll be there. Get the blunts ready.
Yeah. When is your next harvest?
We'll be harvesting this garden in October, except we do have some plants that we'll be harvesting next month. They harvest a little bit early.
And what's the dimensions of this little garden, just out of curiosity? Is it like 10,000 acres or something? No.
No, it's very small. We have larger gardens elsewhere. This is a small experimental garden. It's here in Carmel, and what we do is we utilize the sunlight, the organic gardening that we've been doing for 40 years, such as, like we mentioned yesterday, Actinovate is a biological fungicide that we add to the water when the plants are young. And then the plants become immune to mildew. And as well as doing that, we also make a special home brew tea. And I'll tell you what's in the tea. It's very interesting. We use compost, worm castings, fish hydrate, seaweed extract, molasses, raw coconut sugar, raw cane sugar, and fresh aloe vera juice. And in the veg stage where we are right now, we add seabird guano. But in about a week, when we start getting into the flowering stage, we'll add bat guano.
Wow.
That's a euphemism for shit, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. He's talking poop.
I was born at night, but not last night. Wow, that's impressive. Now, do you use any... manure is another way of saying that, right? It's a kind of manure.
That is correct. Yes, and it's very high in nitrates, and it's very high in... we also like to add a lot of potassium to the plants at their veg stage. And so using an organic tea, it also creates a root system that is very healthy. And then the roots really avoid mildew. The plants avoid mildew because of what we're feeding them. And also, as far as pesticides go, we don't let any pesticides anywhere near our garden. We allow bees and wasps to take the insects off the plant, and we allow ladybugs to kill the mites. So it's very organic.
When the bees and the wasps are leaving, are they sort of in a zigzag kind of fashion, sort of moving all over because they've lost their radar system?
Yeah.
Maybe they don't want to leave after all.
So Justin, are you, so tell us about the strains you're growing. Like what kind of plants you got there?
How long?
Well, this one behind me to my right, this is a Frisian Dew. Frisian Dew is a strain that was developed in Europe, and we picked this one for its anti-mold properties. This one is very resistant to mold. So we'll be growing this plant and crossing it with Big Sur Holybud. And Big Sur Holybud is a local strain that was originally an African landrace strain brought over here to Monterey County many years ago by the hippies. And we have secured some of these seeds, and we're using them in some of our developments in the future.
Wow. Interesting. So let me get this straight. You actually you lived in Medicine Hat, you were diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, you flew down to California and became a cannabis farmer. Is that how it basically went?
Well, I was raised in California, born in Vancouver. I was born in Vancouver in the early 70s, raised in California since the early 80s, and growing marijuana ever since. I went back to Medicine Hat 5 years ago to visit my dad, who lives there, and that's when I was diagnosed.
Let me ask you this, what have your doctors, the doctors that sort of gave you the bon voyage, what did they say about your miraculous recovery?
That's a great question, Ed. They're very amazed, yet at this stage of the game, since it's not federally legal, they are still prohibited from prescribing marijuana and talking about its benefits, or they can get in trouble. So what I'm doing at this stage is training these oncologists and teaching them. They're taking very careful notes on what I'm doing because I'm the first they've ever seen with such amazing results. And other people are getting these results too. I'm not the only one. Cannabis does cure cancer.
Somebody calling up and that says, hey, I got a real dire case here, and they're asking you, can you help them?
Yes, and Ed, if I find out that they don't have money, if they find out that, say, the doctors have taken all their money and they don't have access to the funds to get this cannabis, because it's quite expensive at dispensaries. It's $100 a day for this oil. I give it to them for free because we make up for it on the recreational side, and we want to help patients. We want to help the patients heal, and we can afford to do that.
Interesting you say $100 a day is expensive when some of these drugs that don't work are thousands of dollars a day.
Isn't that something? Yes, true.
Wow.
This is a heartwarming story.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you. How old were you when you were diagnosed with this affliction?
43, Ed. 43 years old.
And you're 47 now?
Just about 48, yes.
Yeah, okay, good.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's amazing. Let me ask you, Justin, would you like to become a well-financed, publicly traded, Canadian-listed public company specializing in cancer cannabis research?
By all means, Ed, we would love that.
Well, tell you what, I mean, this is clearly one of the amazing features or effects of cannabis on humanity as a species is it causes relationships to be catalyzed where they otherwise wouldn't happen. So we're coming down to see you.
Yeah, we're coming down. In fact, I think if we hurry,
I know.
There's
What's
a flight
the next flight, Ed?
Let's call up the jet. Let's call
We're getting the jet. Oh no, we're coming down on the jet. This means this is special. If Special Ed is calling in the special forces with the special jet, you're top priority now, Justin. We're not kidding.
No, this is a great story. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
Go ahead.
No, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. You go ahead.
I understand you have Cam Batley coming on your show today.
Cam was supposed to be here yesterday. He didn't join us. He had to do something else. He was supposed to be rescheduled. We haven't heard from him yet as to when that's going to happen, but he will be here at some point.
Right. I'm a big fan of Cam's. I think they're doing a fantastic job. I follow them closely as an investor.
Really, eh? Yeah, no, it's a good company. We've been tracking it quite a bit. In fact, they're a client of our media production division, meaning we were going out to shoot video of them and everything. So, but we have to disclose that since we're talking about them in the terms of an investment. Are you also a cannabis investor, Justin?
Yes, I am. I'm investing in Canadian and American cannabis companies. And I found quite a few that I like very much with low market caps and big future plans. I'm very excited about the future.
Really, that's interesting. Okay, so are you able to show us some of the other strains in your garden?
Happy to. Let's take a walk, guys. Right. Oh, follow me.
Yeah, go.
This is the Justoni strain, named after myself. It's a cross between Skunk #1, Big Sur Holy Bud, and Crazy Glue, which is another strain we invented last year. And that's a cross between Chernobyl, Fire OG, and Green Crack.
Justin, how many strains do you think of cannabis exists in the world today? I mean, I don't even know if that's a fair question, but I have no idea. Do you?
Well, let's see, Ed. I would say there's probably thousands at this point, and there will be quite a few more in the future. New strains are being developed all the time by people in their backyards and by big corporations. If you notice that Canopy Growth Corporation bought the genetics of Greenhouse Seed Company, and Greenhouse Seed Company is one of the leaders in genetics in the world. I follow strain hunters very close. And so now Canopy Growth has a great variety of strains right now. So we in California are developing a lot more strains to compete with that.
Interesting. So when these strains are developed, are they proprietary? Is there intellectual property protecting them from being used by competitors?
That is correct. And so we, like I mentioned yesterday, we're following the business model of the Cookie Crew. And they made Girl Scout cookie strain out of San Francisco. And they keep their mother plant very secure in a safe. And they only sell the bud. They don't sell seeds or clones. So that's the way they're able to control the strain. And that's what we're going to be doing.
There's no way to reverse engineer the strain?
Not from the bud. Only if there was a seed in the bud, which is very unlikely because we don't let our stuff go to seed.
Okay, well that's great, Justin.
Wow.
Now, in the weeks ahead here, you're going to be taking us into some dispensaries and other gardens to show us all kinds of stuff, aren't you?
Yes, I am. And I'm really looking forward to it. I would love to show you what's happening here in California from the streets perspective. I'm very excited to be on your show, and this is going to be a fun time for us.
Let's go.
Yes, we're going to do that, Ed. And so, okay, Justin, we're going to have to wrap it here for today, but we're going to come back to you. Well, what are you doing tomorrow?
I'll be in a dispensary with you.
Okay, fantastic. We'll look forward
Justin,
to catching up to you
great
then.
meeting you, and what a heartwarming story.
Mr. Milewski, it's an honor to meet you too, sir.
See you later. We'll see you
That's
soon,
the first
Justin.
time someone's called me Mr. Milewski.
And probably the last.
That's probably.
All right. Are you guys ready to roll on?
No.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I don't know.
Anyways, that was.
You could do a movie on this guy.
Well, we could do a movie on this guy. Well, actually, or we
you
could
know
just
what?
put
We
him in
could
the
make
movie.
this a real movie, sort of like, and then are we on the air?
Yeah, we're still cooking here. We're still cooking with gas.
I don't want him-
our
I
little
don't want him to get
inside
approached.
conversation
No.
here, Ed, is actually with all of
Can
them.
we put the cone of silence on?
the cone of silence? Oh my God, that's crazy. We
I
don't have
can't
a cone of
hear
silence.
you.
I'll put the cone of silence on you. Take that. Okay, so that was Justin B. Marshall. He's going to be back on the show. He's our West Coast correspondent. He's going to be taking us to some dispensaries next week. We're going to roll now to an interview we did just a short while ago with Matt Bottomley. Oh no, we're not going to do Matt Bottomley. Are we doing Matt Bottomley? Matt Bottomley from Canaccord is here to talk a little bit about Aurora.
Where?
Hey there, welcome back to Midas Letter Live. My guest in this segment is Matt Bottomley, who's been here a few times before. He's the equity analyst at Canaccord Genuity. Matt, welcome back.
Good to see you again, James.
Matt, you recently published on Aurora Cannabis, and kind of a timely story in that they've just completed their merger with MedReleaf, and so that puts 386 million MedReleaf shares in the wind, so to speak.
Right. So yeah, I mean, this has been a deal that was announced, maybe a month or two ago. So it's been a long time coming. I think M&A is to be expected in this space, and now we've combined, arguably by infrastructure built and some other metrics, probably the number 2 and the number 4 name in the space by size into what could be the largest entity now. So currently, Canopy and Aurora are certainly the leaders by market cap and many other metrics. Okay,
so is Aurora now the biggest by market cap than even Canopy, or are they more or less at the same level?
Well, I mean, they're trading at similar levels right now. Canopy is trading a bit higher on an absolute basis, but I think if you look at the recreational market, potential brand awareness, although branding is going to be quite challenging for all these LPs, how many provinces LPs are in, built infrastructure. Canopy is definitely the largest company in the market, but I think that when you look at the medical side of things now, we have Aurora that's, I think, acquired 2 of the top 3 names in the space when it comes to medical, that being CanAmed, now MedReleaf. I believe CanTrust is another quality name as well, so I'm not forecasting any future M&A on that front when it comes to what Aurora might be doing on its medical side, but I think they clearly have the number 1 spot by size and scale, and potentially expertise when it comes to the medical side of things, which is likely going to get higher pricing over the long term in terms of retail pricing. It's likely going to have a very compelling growth profile as well. I think we're probably only 30–40% ramped up of our medical patient base in Canada. And when it comes to the international opportunity, which a lot of these LPs are getting into, Aurora is still a top 3 name when it comes to international exposure. And with medical expertise, because remember all these international markets are medical, they might have the best shot at carving out market share internationally, which, if you use Germany as the proxy, that's expected to be a fully reimbursed market and can push margins and pricing up higher. So very favorable on this deal. By far the largest deal we've seen in the cannabis industry so far.
Sure. Do you think that Aurora's apparent focus on medical acquisitions as opposed to brands more oriented towards recreational, do you think that's going to perhaps cause more of a perception in the investor marketplace that Aurora is the medical play and Canopy is the rec play?
No, not at all. I think that Canopy certainly, I think in most investors' minds, and also people that I just talked to, anecdotally, that they're not in capital markets, they're not investing, they know Canopy as Tweed. Like everyone knows Tweed. I was up by Wasaga Beach last week and I saw a huge Tweed canopy at an event, so they're everywhere, and I think that they certainly likely have a significant edge when it comes to general public awareness going into the rec market. But I don't think Aurora at all is a medical name over a recreational name. I mean, the provincial purchase orders we've seen come in, MedReleaf and Aurora have the second largest after Canopy of commitments so far that have been made public. So I think what Aurora is focused on this deal isn't we're going to now be medical versus rec. I think they want technologies, which of course, and know-how and expertise, which of course is going to be important in the medical market, but it's also going to be critical into making higher margin products like vape pens and edibles and tinctures, which already are in the market, transdermal patches, things like that. You can take technical medical expertise in how you make different product formulations, and you can roll that into the rec market as well when it comes to product breadth. So I don't really think they think of it, at least in my view, that they're thinking of it as, okay, now we're pivoting to medical versus rec. They will be a top 3 name, in my view, by market share in the rec market as well.
So then one is compelled to ask a chartered financial analyst, why the sell-off in Aurora?
Well, I'm not a chartered financial analyst, but I am a chartered accountant.
Okay.
There's a lot of things there. It's hard to
I'm sorry.
But in any event, I mean, it's hard to know. With this market, I think that I look at it on a fundamental basis, 1-year forward targets, but even my overall views are many, many years out. So why they trade, one day versus the other, it could be certain shareholders that get their shares and want to crystallize their investment. It could be the borrow rates on the short side swing in the wind week over week. I don't follow those personally, not on the trading side. So maybe those rates have come down and there's more borrow out there for people that want to take a short position. I couldn't tell you specifically. I don't know how accretive this deal is. I think it really adds the two behemoths in the industry together, and I'm sure there will be efficiencies and accretion over the long term. But I think just keeping up with scale, like a company like Canopy, is critical if you want to be one of the top 2, 3, 4, 5 names in the market, which I believe it's going to consolidate down to eventually.
Sure. So then Aurora, you've got an $11 target on Aurora long term. Then you know, the takeaway from that is that the cheaper Aurora gets in the current selling environment, the more of a buy it becomes.
Oh, I'm certainly a buyer at these levels. Even when I published the note before a bit of a, no, I wouldn't call it a sell-off, but it's pulled back a bit. And just the reason for that is if you look at where the market's going internationally, there's really three companies in my view that have a very significant edge in potentially getting international inroads. I don't want to say that, you know, the German or Australia or Latin American market are sure things, but I definitely think the Canadian LPs are going to be a part of that, and Canopy, Aphria, and Aurora/MedReleaf have a lead in that segment by far. So you know, I think it's, you know, there's a very favorable growth profile and very favorable optionality still in Aurora's name ahead of, and that's even in addition to ahead of recreational Canadian sales ramping up.
Right. The whole market has sort of demonstrated or gone into a phase of weakness in that their share prices are drifting lower. Do you think that there is a sense that the Canadian market has reached a level of maturity that makes the U.S. market more attractive, or at least the U.S. companies traded in Canadian stocks?
There's a number of ways to divide that up. I think that, you know, we've seen a lot of headline in the Canadian space when it comes to this recreational market coming out. I think there's a bit of sell-on news potentially when there's been all of this positive headlines for a year or 2 years now. So I think we're seeing a bit of fatigue on the LP side. In my view, the macro valuations in the Canadian market, sometimes it's as much as 40 billion, sometimes 30. That can't be supported just by Canadian fundamentals. So that's telling you that A, there's too many players in this space, which I believe there are, or B, maybe investors are starting to bake in more value for these international optionality, the fundamentals that come from other countries. So I think because of that, there is a lot more attention going to these U.S. names, partially because there's just a vast U.S. pipeline coming to market. We've seen MedMen and GTI, you know, companies like Trulieve and other U.S. plays that are either coming to market or are already here. In addition to legacy names that I cover, like Ianthus and MPX, and names that I'm very favorable on. So the U.S. names certainly trade at a very, very steep valuation, steep discount in valuation to the Canadian names, and I expect that to somewhat normalize over the next year, which is why I put so much of my focus on those U.S. names.
Sure. Have you got any more of a sense politically when we might expect deprohibition broadly federally in the U.S.?
No, but I can tell you there's a lot of incremental data points to track. I don't think this is going to come as one big headline news. You wake up in the morning next week and all of a sudden it's not a Schedule I drug. I think you're going to see incremental data points. So GW Pharma's trial of Epidiolex, which was passed by the FDA, now contradicts the DEA's stance that being Schedule I, meaning that cannabis causes harm. So you have two federal agencies in the U.S. saying two different things. Whether or not there's any pressure to change that, I don't know. You know, you have the Farm Bill that might be signed in the coming months, which might allow you know, looser, I guess more ability for hemp-derived products to be shipped potentially into large distributors like a Costco or something around the U.S. So there's definitely incremental data points to track. I think the midterm elections this November is one, and I think coming into 2020, if there's no significant movement, cannabis legalization is a great issue for either a Republican or a Democrat to try and tackle, because 65% of the U.S. Americans believe that cannabis should be legal for recreational purposes, and it's like 99% for medical. So I think it's just an issue of when, not if it's going to happen, but trying to handicap the month or quarter that's going to happen. You know, you just got to track the data points as they come. But it's moving. It's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so then people would ask me, and so I'm going to ask you, I'm going to foist this off on you,
sure.
But a lot of individuals out there opining that, you know, the Canadian market is mature and therefore, you know, there's not, everything's going to go to the US, to which my normal response is, oh no, there are quite a number of value catalysts left on the Canadian side that will catalyze an accumulation phase again towards the end of the summer is my belief, though I don't want to be held to that timeline.
Sure.
What are the value catalysts from where you sit in the Canadian space that might yet catalyze more accumulation?
Well, I think that if someone's saying the Canadian market's mature, what they might mean is overvalued, because there's no way this market's even close to mature whatsoever. I mean, we haven't even kicked it off, but there are a good number of catalysts. We've seen some LPs, or I guess some provinces, press release licensed producers that are going to get purchase orders from the Alberta government and BC government. Not a lot of clarity in that, but you can see obviously BC is having a wide net, 31 licensed producers. Canopy and the larger LPs are only getting about 5,000 to start, so that's much less than their proportionate market share in other places. Ontario is a huge catalyst coming up. It seems to me like it might be a little more auction style, like there might be very short-term rolling bases for those purchase orders. stores. But I think you're going to be able to see in the next little while which licensed producers might have a better inroad. Because at the end of the day, this market is eventually going from what is right now the cost of admission of being a cultivator and a farmer to consumer packaged goods, to having shelf space in the prime areas in the LCBO, in the SAQ models that are going to be rolled out. So that's a catalyst. I think Shoppers Drug Mart finally announcing that they have a sales license to distribute medical cannabis online will be a huge catalyst. Now, that might actually be unfavorable, quite frankly, to the LPs that have the contract on a pricing perspective, but it might also crystallize their market share in the medical market, because I believe Shoppers Drug Mart is going to be potentially more aggressive in pricing than what the wholesale market is right now, LP to LP or through the government. So these are all catalysts. And then, of course, October 17th, huge news catalyst. I think that different provinces are going to probably execute in different ways. I look at the Ontario government as probably maybe some short-term pain, maybe long-term gain in a catalyst with Doug Ford's government potentially wanting to privatize the retail side. Now, we're coming very close to October 17th. I mean, just yesterday it felt like it was March, so it's going to come pretty quick. And to all of a sudden pivot on that now, I have no idea how they can do that. Using sort of the Win legacy plan of having 40 stores open in the first year. I've heard of 4 myself, and I'm pretty plugged in, talking to investors and stakeholders every day. So I don't know how that's going to roll. I think there's going to be some negative news headlines, quite frankly, in maybe Ontario. But if it privatizes over the long term, that's much more favorable, assuming the LPs are allowed in. So there's a number of catalysts to look out for, and they always sneak up on me. I'll wake up Monday morning not expecting, and then they're off to the races. So.
There you go. So lots left to come in the Canadian cannabis space. All right, Matt, that's great as usual. Thanks for coming in today.
Anytime.
So what do you think? Matt Bottomley, eh? Pretty bullish on Aurora. I wonder, does he own any stock? Did Canaccord buy very much stock in Aurora? Anyways, never mind. Enough about Aurora already. My guest right now on this next segment is Alison Gordon is here. She's the CEO of 48 North Cannabis Company.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming today. Allison, it's been what, 2 weeks since we've seen you?
I don't know, too long.
Yeah, what's new in the world of 48 North Cannabis?
Lots is new. We were actually just out at the facility on Monday, and we are growing some amazing plants out there. It's really exciting, actually. I told you last time that we had brought in genetics from the Netherlands, and those were being phenotyped. So going into the mother room and seeing these amazing plants, I'm really excited for us to have some different genetics than everyone else out there. Yeah. So that's super exciting. Always
so
great
what kind
to
of
see
genetics have you got exactly?
Well, we've got 17 cultivars that we brought in from seed from the Netherlands. So it's a lot of different stuff.
Do I won't sit
names? Here and you want me to start naming
well, the names are the coolest part about the different strains.
Okay, so there's the green crack.
Whoa, you got green crack? We were just talking to Justin in California. He's got green crack.
We got the Girl Scout cookie.
You got the Girl Scout cookies.
We do.
That's
we
my
have
favorite.
DNA Kosher Kush, although probably not DNA's Kosher Kush, but that is their strains. So we have the Kosher Kush, which is exciting, and a whole bunch more of really great stuff. Yeah, some high CBD. We're just like
this brings me to like a tangential question that doesn't have anything to do with anything really, but I read in I think it was a. I can't remember. It was one of the online cannabis publications had suggested, somebody wrote an article saying all this that you hear about, sativa being more light and poppy as a buzz, and indica being more heavy and physical is all complete, utter bullshit. Right. That's not true. They can be anything. One can be the other. One can be, and they can share characteristics. And it's like, for me, I've always noticed that when I want to be functional, I smoke a sativa, and if I don't care about being functional and I'm looking to just relax in the most profound way, an indica better serves that purpose.
I love coming on this show because I feel like a doctor of marijuana and cannabis, and I often wonder, do the other CEOs, are you like Bruce Linton? Do you find that the indica is, but I do actually know this stuff because I am part of the cannabis culture and I am a cannabis user, and I will say that I think in any plant-based medicine, people will react differently. So it is the case that from all the quantitative reporting, people find sativa is makes you less sleepy, less heavy, but of course any individual could have a different reaction to a sativa or an indica, but it is the case, I mean, through reporting. But that's the exciting thing about where we are now in Canada, and as the US sort of evolves, is we're actually going to have research and data that will back up all of that we know. And really, I think what would be interesting, and next time I come back, I'll bring this with me, we use a group called Strain Print. They're awesome, and they are tracking what people are using, how they feel, how it's helping with stuff. So they're accumulating a ton of data on that. So let's take a look and find out if it's the case. But yes, most people do report that a sativa doesn't make them feel as tired or heavy, and the indica is more that, like, you know, traditional stoner thing.
Yeah. So the
and sativas, by the way, are more rare in terms. At least I find in the LP system in Canada, you're not finding as many pure sativas.
Right.
And so the question of the person who wrote this piece, you know, did someone say this was a sativa and it was more of a hybrid? Like, where did they come up with this?
Right.
Are they scientists?
Well, that's just it. There are a lot of people throwing around scientific information who...
Like myself.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, as we develop an understanding, we all move forward into more understanding of cannabis and its effects at a personal health level, at a metaphysical level, collectively as a society. But the interesting thing that I'm observing everywhere I go is everybody has their own version of what cannabis is and how it evolved.
Because it's interesting, like, there are people that I really respect and are friends, like Mark Richardson or Hilary Black, who've been working with the plant and patients for 25, 30 years, but it wasn't as though people were recording data and names, and like everything was underground. So you can have those conversations, and I do, because I believe truly to run a cannabis company, I believe for me, I couldn't run a company that I don't understand the product myself or understand how people engage with it. So in that same way, I wouldn't set out to try and make a car if I know nothing about cars. So for me, I have these conversations. So all of this information is out there. It's just not being recorded. It hasn't been typically reported. So it's exciting as the world is completely changing and we're alive for this to see that people are actually going to keep track of it.
I know. One of the things that I see, or I keep hearing from different CEOs, is that now you're going to be able to actually sort of clinically measure the effects of different dosages and different strains on yourself and arrive at a sort of perfect combination for your own personal sort of composition.
Yeah, I think we talked about this last time, that I've seen all sorts of technology where, the vape is connected to your phone and you can sort of set it at exactly the dose you want, and then you can record how you felt, so you can adjust it and you can keep working with it till you get where you want to get to. So, I mean, I'd love to see how that's all going to play out, because really, and we've discussed this before as well, when you're buying cannabis or certain strains and using it, if someone else grew it, there would be different, or it's grown under different conditions, it would all be different. So I'm very curious to see how it's going to be as precise as people think it will. But again, I'm not a science person. I think at the molecular level, you could do that. But I guess with flower, it would be hard to get it so precise.
So I just spent a week in California, in Los Angeles, and then in Oakland and San Francisco. We went and visited the MedMen store, and among the many goodies I bought there was I bought chocolate-covered blueberries.
Yes, the Terra.
They were 2.5 grams of THC.
They were one of the original in California back when we were running that dispensary. That was one of the first brands that kind of came out there.
So just for clarity's sake, Alison owned...
Oh, I worked for the company.
Oh, you worked for the company that owned, I'm sorry. The Santa Monica location of MedMen that we were just at last week. And in
West Hollywood on Santa Monica Boulevard.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's the one we visited.
Yeah.
And that's where I bought substantially all of my goodies. The other location we went and visited was Jetty Extracts. And they gave us like care packages to go with, because we were there with all these
it's a
cameras
different world
shooting.
in California, right?
It is so, like, I've never received a care package of all the site visits I've ever done in Canada, because obviously CEOs are not going to risk their license just to give me a care package, and we've never really asked for one. We always jokingly do, but I don't think they've ever taken us seriously. So so we never know. So I'm looking forward to October 17th.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know about care packages then. But yeah, California is just to see it evolve. So that dispensary we purchased in 2014. This is not only prior to California going rec, but prior to them even changing some of the regulations around you being able to not be a not-for-profit. So you still had to be a not-for-profit. This store had been shut down for sort of tax reasons, and it was really one of 4 legally permitted in all of Los Angeles, because West Hollywood was the only municipality within sort of the greater Los Angeles area that had given out permits. So we had purchased this dispensary. I don't even want to say for what price, because it could make you cry thinking what it's valued at now. But the vision was a bit early, because for investors it was like, what? It's a not-for-profit, and how does that work? And it was like, no. California is 49% of the North American cannabis market. This is one of 4 legally permitted. California
is 49% of the North American cannabis market.
Yes.
Wow. Now, are you saying that on the consumption side, on the demand side?
Like from an economic standpoint, the selling, the buying, all of that, it makes up 49% of the market.
Wow, so a pretty important market.
It's a hugely important market, and that store in particular, like that experience for me was fundamental to what I'm doing at 48 North, because when we first bought it, it was 4,000 square feet. As you saw, it's huge. And everything in there was made by the bud tenders when we first purchased it. So I think I told you this last time. Lemon squares just wrapped in cellophane with a sticker.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, this is, whatever. Then very quickly, sort of the Terra blueberries and Kiva and Venice Beach Cookie Company, this stuff started to come in, and it was packaged and it was branded, and it was like, okay, this is a consumer packaged goods industry. And the sales wound up going from something like 30% of sales being extracted products to upwards of 50% being the edibles, the vapes, the topicals, the pet stuff. And so that's where very early, because this was like 2014, 2015, I was like, this is all going to be about branding and packaging and products. And that in Canada, everyone thought I was mental, because it was still medical, it was still just flower and the limited extract and no marketing and branding. So now I sort of smile as everyone's like, we're a CPG company, which is great, because it is a packaged goods industry.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, you have to supply the OCS, and everything must be very,
Yeah, has to look
packaged
good.
Up.
Has to look pro.
I don't know if it will, it will look professional. I don't know how beautiful it will all look.
Well, that's interesting. So the Jetty extracts place, and all of the extracts. So it's interesting, because I'm really following this idea that everything's going to extracts and edibles and away from just premium dried flower.
Yeah.
Which that's probably true, because smoking has other issues associated with it. It makes your throat hurt, it makes you cough like crazy.
And young people, in North America, I think, I don't know the statistics, but aren't cigarette smokers, so it isn't that natural instinct to go towards smoking, and the ease of use of a disposable vape and its discretion, like it's discreet, like I think all of that sort of convenience for millennials is big.
Yeah. The one thing that I've noticed, however, is that they're able to deconstruct cannabis into its constituent parts. But then when they reconstitute it, I have yet to encounter any vape product that comes anywhere near a properly distilled sort of, like we used to call it green crack, we used to call it honey oil, which is essentially when you take all of the trichomes that have stuck to you while you're trimming, and
like a keef.
And you dissolve it in alcohol and let the alcohol evaporate slowly and at room temperature. You end up with a whole oil, an oil that contains all of the terpenes that the flower expresses. And so the flavor experience of that is one of the aspects that I am watching disappear in this whole evolution, and going, no! And it's like, is that going to keep happening? Or is somebody going to go, wait a sec, you can have these, you know, cannabinoids as ingredients if you deconstruct them and reconstruct them.
Right.
But there is always going to be a market. I think there's going to become a market for a real connoisseur level.
I hope so.
oil.
I mean, like yourself, I really hope so. Sometimes I think about the fact that we all eat apples that don't really taste like apples, right? And nobody really talks about it. And you just buy those apples and you don't even give a second thought to the fact, like, well, when I was a kid, these tasted like apples, not, you know, genetically modified things that can sit nicely on a shelf. But we don't talk about it and we still buy the apples. But yeah, I hope
I don't buy the
that
apples.
You don't buy, oh, you're organic. I forgot you're organic.
I am so organic.
You know, for what you're speaking to in Canada on the extraction side with the CO2 or the ethanol, so you're going to lose the terpenes through the methods that are allowed here. When you talked about, I don't know if you did it or friends did it with the alcohol, like, can you imagine trying to do that on a mass scale? That's, you know, it's not a mass
production. I used to do it on a Pyrex dish on my stove with,
right.
after 15
It's not
plants.
as efficient as a massive CO2 machine. So yeah, I think that we're going to have to see what I think will have to happen is on the distribution and retail side, an acknowledgement that these things are something the consumer wants. Because right now, and I won't highlight any particular province, but when you're saying, okay, we're going to buy, well, we're just talking about flower right now, but you know, the outdoor or the greenhouse at $2.50 a gram and sort of mid-quality indoor at $4 a gram and the top at $5 a gram. Well, you're not really leaving room for a craft or cannabis like grower to be able to do these intricate things.
Right.
So in many ways it has to come from that end to allow us to be, as you know, licensed producers, to be able to invest the time and money and not just sort of do what's quickest and cheapest. But that's not what seems to be on the horizon right now.
Which sort of brings me to a question for you, a bit of a convoluted one.
Yes.
But so if at least a large part of the impetus for legalized recreational cannabis was to defeat the other illicit sources that funded criminal enterprises, for want of a better word, then wouldn't you agree then that these limitations as to how we are able to create product and deliver it to the regulated market are going to be the make or break point at which the illicit enterprises continue or fail? Because if I can't get the super premium whole oil that I've grown up loving,
then you'll get it on the black market.
I know where to get it.
You would never.
No, I never.
Well, I'm going to give you the diplomatic answer, which is, of course, if consumers have a choice, price would impact it, and also choice of how they want to consume. If they can't get it in the legal market and they've already been getting it in this robust black market, it's logical to think they'll go there. But the diplomatic side, which you know, is real, is that it's not easy for the federal government to legalize this entire, you know, cannabis world, really. I mean, I think we could be sitting here if the federal government had said, no problem, we're October 17th, make whatever you want, however you want, food, this, that, and the other. You and I would be sitting here going, is it going to be safe? Who's checking if the food is right? Like, nobody's going to love that either. So how do you start melding these departments together? I mean, 48 North, we're very interested in the cosmetic and skincare side because of our focus on the female market, and that's such a huge thing in the US. And, you know, Vogue magazine, Vanity Fair, New York Times, all saying CBD is the next big skincare ingredient, and you can see that. It's amazing. And so for us, we're trying to figure out, and we're formulating, and that's awesome, and coming up with very unique formulations on the skincare side, but we don't yet understand when that will be in the Canadian market. What will that look like? How will that interact with other regulatory bodies that are, you know, currently part of the cosmetic world? So you have to imagine that over at the federal government and Health Canada, they're like trying to figure it all out. So just fingers crossed that we can get there.
As a CEO who interacts with Health Canada officials on a regular basis, do you get the sense from them that they are open to finding a way to broaden the product sort of profile of what's available in Canada and what's not as soon as rationally expected to be possible?
I actually do. I mean, look, I'm on the board of the Industry Association, so we meet with the Office of Medical Cannabis, and in terms of that department, everybody is really also looking forward to expanding the program, but understandably they have a huge monumental task there in terms of all the applicants that they're still processing, all the expansion, all the inspectors, all the compliance. Like, I can't even begin to imagine. And yes, they've actually been amazing, and they really want to serve us and help as much as they can. But as you can imagine, they're growing to meet the demand. But now you have, let's say, 45 new government employees that are looking at massive applications and expansions, and people who are trying to figure out how they can, what products they can create and things they could do. But yes, in terms of what you're asking me, I don't get the sense of forget it. Like, for a few years, I've been talking to them about this idea, exactly what you just said, patients to wipe out the black market, and patients also want a variety of options beyond just smoking and, you know, some of the tinctures, and they know that, but, you know, there's also regulation. It's
right. Is there a sense, do you get the sense that the Office of Medical Health
Cannabis
is looking for more clinical data to be available before they license products like topical creams? Or
I have not heard that.
Okay.
They might, I guess, want to. I don't know about topicals. I mean, I think probably there's more investigation on the edible side, but I think topicals, again, it's more, especially if it's non-psychoactive, it would be like less, it has to meet all the regulatory, which whatever that will be when that happens. But I don't think the topical is as much probably a concern. Nobody's told me that. I mean, it depends. Like, if you're talking about a patch that has an activated THC, or if you're talking about a CBD cream that you know, can help with your arthritis.
Sure.
And my hope, of course, is that CBD will be classified ultimately as a natural health product.
Right. It's interesting to me that CBD with no psychotropic effects is nonetheless still not broadly available in Canada.
Legally,
right. Exactly. But you know, yet it's just it's becoming such a well-known, at least at this stage, homeopathic remedy. That I can't believe that it's things like legislation that are holding up the advancement of our understanding of this. Anyways, we're going to have lots of opportunity to talk about that. Alison, do
you use the CBD creams?
I haven't. Nobody's given me any yet.
I don't have any.
Oh, you don't have any? Come on, help a brother out here.
You were in California.
I know. You know what? I was
I mean, I don't know if you have any pain or bruising or shoulder soreness, but there are some amazing products out there in California, legal, and you can try them when you're there.
I was in kid in a candy store mode when I was there, and believe me, topicals were not on my mind.
Is this your first time in California?
No, but it was my first time in California since cannabis was so widely available.
Right.
So, you know,
okay, so since legalization.
Yeah.
So you must have been really
I was like, especially since you're going down there all like, I'm from Canada, the first G7 country to have federal legislation.
Right.
And then you walk into one of those stores and you're just like, yeah, I'm from Canada, and it's kind of embarrassing. Like, I mean, yes, we've got federal legislation, but it's laughable the range of products that are going to be available, and the sort of provincial approach to things, where, you know, the Nova Scotia Liquor Board announced that they were going to be the first province to allow cannabis and liquor products combined into one.
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay, we're just going rogue nation here within the country.
It's interesting.
Well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so, you know, and then you look at California, where it's just like, first make it, and then we'll let you know if there's a reason to make it illegal. But it's like, basically the whole approach there is opposite. It's like, you go ahead and make whatever you want. If there's a reason for us to outlaw it, we'll do that after the fact. I mean, it's not like you got to submit everything to this government approval process.
Right.
And they decide that, okay, now you can sell it to people.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's they all have their challenges for sure. I mean, California, it's just this massive market. People have grown for generations. Now you're trying to say, okay, you need to be licensed, you need to do it this way, you can't do it that way. Like, I've always felt like California just scared me in terms of how would they possibly get a handle on that.
Yeah.
Like, but it's there. It's exciting.
All right, Alison, we're going to cut to our new other best friend.
Who?
Mark Lustig.
Mark Lustig. New best friend?
Our new best friend, Mark Lustig. He is here today, and are we rolling on that, Fraser? Yay! Hey, welcome back to Midas Letter Live. My guest in this segment is Mark Lustig. He's with Canna Royalty Corp, CSE listed CRZ. Mark, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Mark, Canna Royalty has been knocking it out of the park by all accounts. The value of your portfolio of investments keeps going up. Your share price is, I'm sure, putting smiles on a lot of faces relative to what's going on in the sector. You've really started to make this solid move as an operator in California. And you recently closed a $30 million private placement. And is that to support that sort of ongoing evolution of the company?
It is. Increasingly, we've been acquiring either manufacturing or distribution assets in the state of California. It's the world's biggest cannabis market. It's fully recreationally legal. And we, at the moment, are dominating that market. And so it's a choice of where we would allocate resources. It's just much better for us to allocate resources into California, but that particular financing was largely for various initiatives that we're undertaking in California.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And the acquisition by Aurora of your roll technology, is that kind of emblematic of your intention to divest yourself of things that are non-core to the California operations?
Exactly. In that case, Terry and his team did a lot of work on pre-rolled technologies. We had made that investment more than a couple of years ago. It was an excellent return on investment to our shareholders. We'd taken out of it various things that we wanted. For example, we now own or distribute the largest 4 pre-rolled brands in the state of California. So we developed brands on the pre-rolled side of the market, which we think is a huge part of the product segment that customers are looking for. And at the same time, we have a very good relationship with Aurora, and they wanted the license for Canada and international use of that technology. So it was a really good trade, if you will. Bought it at one price, sold it at a much higher price to a group that we trust. And in the meantime, took out a number of assets like branded products that we're doing very well with in key markets.
Very interesting. I just returned from a cannabis trip to California, as it were, and I spoke to some individuals who run dispensaries and some customers, and a couple things emerged that are existent as a problem in California, and I'm curious to hear how you're dealing with these problems. It sounds like they're not a problem for you, but one is that since the onset of the new rules, January 1st, 2018, that the testing requirements for suppliers into the retail channels has become much tougher, to the point where 70 to 80% of tested cannabis is being rejected due to pesticides, and the result is that in the dispensaries, they're down to 20 to 25% of the normal variety of products they're able to offer. And so there's a huge squeeze on the supply side. Is that something that you're having to deal with, or is it a case where, no, your suppliers are all one of that small sliver that's getting through the pesticide testing programs?
This was a huge win for Canna Royalty, and I'll explain why, which is that we made the investments into testing and compliance and ERP systems and point of sale systems and tax payment systems, all of the different things that a number of the smaller, more entrepreneurial outfits in California didn't have the capital for. So this ends up coming back to that same trend that we've spoken about before, which is that if an entrepreneur who's producing a great edible product doesn't have access to capital, they're naturally going to cut those corners, like on testing or other types of systems. And you're right, January 1st was the day that California went rec. The state gave a 6-month window for people to get their act in order. And as of July 1st, you had to comply with the state regulations. So what we saw is that in the last couple of weeks of June, the dispensaries were flooded with product that people needed to get out of the system that was going to not pass the state regulations. So in that period, obviously, you know, the dispensaries were filled with discounted products. But as of July 1st, and right as the state had had messaged, the enforcements went in. And at that point, it was sort of like we were the guys, the fishermen with the nets out during the storm when everybody else had to sort of come back to shore. We have done extremely well as of that point because of the investments that we made into those areas like you're talking about. So it's probably our products, or certainly products that we distribute, that are largely the ones on the shelves right now.
And you're in a lot of dispensaries in California.
Yeah, we would cover somewhere between 70 and 80%. Our objective by the end of this year is to be covering 80% of all dispensaries in California.
Wow. And so what's the range of products that you actually supply into that chain?
So at the moment, Canada Royalty owns 10 of its own branded products that are for sale in California, ranging from edibles to different types of vape cartridge products to pre-rolls, as I said. And those products, specifically vape cartridges, pens, disposables, and pre-rolls, to us continue to be the market leading products. There's things that we're doing in the beverage area. You probably noticed a couple of months ago that we brought on Dan O'Neill onto our board, who was the former CEO of Molson's. And so that should be taken by investors as an indication that that's an important area to us, as it should be, because we do think the beverages are going to be an important product segment. So aside from the 10 branded products that we manufacture and own, we're currently distributing either through Alta or River, which are our two owned cannabis distribution platforms in the state of California. We'd be distributing about 55 different products. Our target is to be distributing more than 100 products by the end of this year. And that would range from tinctures, concentrates, distillates, even animal health related foods, pure CBD types products, edibles, and then obviously the products that I mentioned, vape cartridges and pre-rolls, as being the most important for us.
Sure. One of your investments was the investment into Anandia Labs, which was then acquired by Aurora Cannabis. And it's interesting to me that you obviously did very well by the investment as an investment, but is that sort of where you became cognizant of the importance of testing, was through that relationship?
Absolutely. We had made the investment in Anandia at the beginning of 2017. We put $4 million total into that investment, and we owned 20% of the company. And naturally, as you pointed out, the transaction with Aurora, which is about to close, is a significantly higher valuation that again, shareholders have done extremely well on. But once again, we've never been a passive investor where we hoped that the return from one price to the next was the only thing that our shareholders had access to. It was always, let's pull whatever else we can out of this relationship, whether it's a branded product, or it's a royalty, or an ongoing option on something with respect to their business. In this case, it was excellent relationship with entrepreneurs who are probably the leading group in terms of testing and quality assurance for products. So that was one of our ancillary takeaways from the relationship.
Sure. In the PowerPoint that you recently updated, it was a great graphic representation of Canada is big, but California is huge. And I'm curious as to, you've obviously made a commitment to California. Is that, at least in some part, because you think that maybe it's now the U.S. turn to make that exponential jump in valuations for its cannabis companies, because Canada's already done that, and we're now, in the grand scheme of things, even though it's been a short timeline, we're more or less a mature market from an investment perspective. Do you think that investors are going to flock more to U.S. plays now that Canada has sort of become more or less fully valued, or at least what some investors will call fully valued?
Absolutely. That was really our strategy from the beginning. When I founded the company, it was to give an investor exposure to the U.S. 3 years ago, that wasn't as popular as it is today, but with progress being made at the federal level on policy with respect to cannabis, but more so with state progress. I think there are now 39 states that are either medical or recreationally legal. You read the same stats as I do about public support for cannabis in the US. From an investment perspective, the amount of either private family office, ultra high net worth, or fund money that's coming into the sector would give people a lot more confidence investing in the US today. So I guess we got that one right so far. And in terms of a choice between California and Canada, there wasn't ever a choice. California is, by every single metric, a market that's 10 to 20 times bigger than Canada. We would look at Canada, even though we are Canadian and we respect our roots and we have a lot going on here, as just another market, a state maybe, in some senses. And yet you have a state that has probably on its way to 200 different producers. Now you've got micro-growing and the ability for the smaller guy to grow. It's a complicated and crowded market. Having said that, we look at our asset base as we pivot and look at the Canadian market, either as it relates to branded products, the knowledge about manufacturing and distribution of branded products, and some ideas that we have around distribution/retail. Those two areas, if you were to ask the CEOs of the leading Canadian licensed producers, they would tell you that their priorities right now are branded products, so that consumers who are soon going to be buying their products, not just receiving whatever was sent in the mail, need to see some good products with variety and good quality. And so I would say that the CEOs of Canadian licensed producers, I should say, are now fixated on how do I produce a great vape cartridge in the future, or an edible, or whatever it is that my consumer base is really going to look for from me, on the one hand, and on the other, how do I get that on the shelf of a store? And so, you know, we've been doing all of this in California successfully in arguably the most sophisticated market, with a consumer base who doesn't have any time for a vape cartridge that doesn't work, or an edible that's lousy and melted inside the packaging. Like, you actually have to have figured this stuff out. So we look at our value proposition, even in the Canadian context, as very significant, but very unrealized yet by the Canadian or cannabis investor. And that's sort of how we were able to help on certainly the Anandia side with the sale to Aurora, and then, as you pointed out, the sale of the pre-rolled licensing technology to Aurora as well.
And so what's your view on when federal deprohibition will happen in the US?
So I've always been an under guy. I've always taken the under on the timing that most people think. Look, there's an interim election coming up here in November that's going to be very interesting, right? Because you have an administration right now that has its issues, and its competition, let's call it the Democratic Party, would be very progressive on cannabis. Yet in your own party, the rate of support for cannabis, federal legalization, is the highest it's ever been. So it kind of feels to me, and I'm not a political analyst, that it would be a pretty easy move to legalize cannabis federally and have pretty widespread support for that, not just politics, but actual economic jobs, taxes, etc. That's the trend that we've been on, is that people are actually realizing that this isn't, you know, devil's weed. This is actually a product that competes alongside a number of other different consumer products, and is creating jobs and creating a lot of tax revenues, and also on the science side there's some really good progress happening. So I think I'm an under guy. I think it's less time than most people think.
Sure. All right. Well, that's great as usual, Mark. Thank you so much for the update. We'll come back to you soon enough. Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, welcome back to the not pre-recorded, but the live Midas Letter RAW. Special Ed is here. Special Ed is here. He's on time. He's on time. He's on budget. Special Ed, how are you doing, Ed?
I'm on borrowed time. No. Well, that guy was on borrowed time.
Justin.
Holy smokes.
I know.
That's borrowed time.
Well, he paid back the loan, and now he's no longer on borrowed time. He's on a long fuse by the looks of things.
Wow.
But that's just unbelievable. Stage 4 cancer? Unreal. But
I
what
know.
did you think? What do you think of Canada Royalty? Like, I mean, that's got to be one of the best sort of whole market.
Let's put up the stock. Let's put up the price. I'm a kind of guy that you ask me a question and I look at. I want to see how the investors.
That's because you're a technical guy.
I'm a technical guy. I'm very technical.
You're very technical.
Technical in nature.
Technical. CRZ is the symbol of our favorite.
Crazy.
Canada Royalty. You know, it's funny. A lot of our. Oops, what happened there? CRZ. Why didn't we see it? There it is. Come on, get up there, newsroom. Okay, let's put it up on full screen.
What?
There. Keep this in the center of your chest, Ed, at all times. Otherwise, it'll end up going somewhere else. You won't like that. No. Beep, 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 beep. Not like that.
You said keep it in the center of your chest.
I meant like, so you know where you're sitting.
Don't
like
say keep it in the center of your seat.
Well, I'll tell you where you're going to keep it if you keep it like that.
Whoa.
No. What are you doing?
We're gonna be shutting down early tonight, folks.
We're going to need a lot of wine tonight.
Yeah. Because I'm whining already. Wow, that's a nice looking chart. But I got to tell you, I see a little, let's just say a caution flag.
Oh yeah, where's that?
Yeah, I'll show you. This is more of a longer term one because this peaked here.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
Right in that's probably early January.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yep, that is January right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Big wick. Big wick.
Sorry, I've got a big what?
I can't pronounce
Who's got a big
can't pronounce my D's very well.
What's that, Wabbit? What did you weigh about that weigh?
I want to drink a glass of water. No. Stop it!
Anyways, your technical
Silly
analysis
Wabbit.
here.
Okay, so
It's a professional operation.
this was a terrible, we had it there, but I read it. But anyway, we come back here and we do a double
that's
top.
January.
This is recently.
That's the run up to legalization in June.
And then we try it there. They try it here. There is huge, and I got to believe that's a little lower. So I'm saying, looks like a double top. We've backed off here as the rest of the market has.
Yeah.
So I'd like to, right now I'd be a little nervous because on the
Double
other
top, but that's what you've been saying about everything lately, Ed. Everything's making you nervous. Is there no, what's going on, Chad? Are we going to all jump out of a building together on this, or?
Well, I'm on the second floor, so I'm hoping to sustain mild injuries.
Live to fight
And
another day.
there's a pool down there, by the way. I'm picking a backyard with a pool.
As long as you don't miss the pool, it should be good.
Hope there's water in the pool. Okay, so and the volume's obviously dropped off there.
Yeah.
No, but I mean it's had a great performance. Not as sort of meteoric as some of the other issuers.
Yeah.
We had $2 here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the better buys on the market personally.
I thought that
I don't own it yet.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that the summer
get some free
doldrums.
stock. No.
Well, no, I'm hoping that the summer doldrums take it down lower, and then I tell you what, I am a buyer.
Yeah, what was the comment I heard? 49% of the North American market is California.
Alison Gordon enlightened us that 49% of the cannabis market in North America is California.
Really?
We didn't get a chance to talk about how that metric was arrived at, but when you think about it, California's got how many people?
40
million. And Canada's got how many people?
35. That's 75.
Huh. So so how many people in the whole cannabis market if you only take states that are legal and Canada?
Well, there's Denver, Washington, Oregon, and these other states. There's nobody lives there. There's only 4 million people in Oregon. I looked it up.
Really?
Yeah, I just didn't pull that out of the air.
Or out of your what?
Out of my hair. What hair? Well, you don't have any hair. I'm a Canadian hairless.
Is that like one of those Peruvian hairless dogs?
Yeah.
Butt ugly, but cute as hell.
Butt's ugly.
But it's ugly.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So
anyways,
not a bad looking chart, but I see,
People are always asking me, what do I see as some of the overlooked gems in the marketplace? I say
you say that's a real.
I say Canada Royalty is an overlooked gem. They don't pay us; they're not a client, and I do not own the stock yet. But I do think that this is one of the ones.
What's the market cap of this baby?
Let's see here. If we go back to the page, we can tell. Shares out 236 million.
And is it?
Well, the interesting thing, so they started off as an investment sort of royalty company, and then they sort of started to pivot to a California operator. And so now they've got all these assets, and they've got their products are in 80% of dispensaries in California. And so they've got this great portfolio of investments. They owned, I can't remember, I think it was 14% of Andina Labs. Andina Labs was sold to Aurora for $115 million. Big win for Canada Royalty shareholders there. What else did they own? They've owned a lot of interesting things. They sold their pre-roll brand technology, or their pre-roll technology, to Aurora. So it's kind of like the gift that keeps on giving.
And you know, I made some comments, and again, this is just that I can't help but see a spike top and then a double test. But I mean, this has performed, relatively speaking, better than, say, Aurora. Aurora's already been cut in half. More than cut in half.
Yeah, right. Well,
this hasn't.
Yeah, Aurora's market cap has been cut in half pre the MedReleaf asset being added.
Yeah, right.
So if you add the value of the MedReleaf asset at its purchase price of $3.3 billion, you add that to today's market cap of Aurora, what do you get?
A lot of market cap.
You get just under $8 billion.
Holy smokes!
Yeah.
Is $8 billion more than $6 billion?
It's 2 more than 6.
Wow.
Ed? Well, Ed's a technical analyst.
Yeah. Didn't go to many arithmetic classes, but
that's you can recognize a pattern just as well as the next guy.
Yeah, my mother was a seamstress.
Okay. So we're gonna look at another stock here.
Okay.
This symbol is CAN. And the reason that we're going to look at this company is because I own a pile of shares in the company, or at least I did before Suzanne knocked everything over.
What's going on?
Suzanne's just, doing her elephant walk.
Is there, I'm looking, that I used to have a glass of water around here. I'm just wondering.
Okay. Now, I own a whole bunch of shares in this private company called Canaccord.
Really?
And it is the subject of a binding letter of intent.
Did it just start trading today?
No, it's the subject of a binding letter of intent from Heritage Cannabis Corporation. The symbol doesn't show up here for some reason properly from Quote Media's system. That's something they've got to correct. But then I started reading the MD&A on this thing, and they've got Cheech Marin signed to a contract.
No.
Yeah.
Good old
Cheech Marin, Cheech and Chong. So
now, are they both still alive?
Yeah, they're both still alive. Cheech and Chong. Tommy Chong is. Tommy Chong's had a few bouts with cancer that he says he was cured by cannabis as well. He swears by it.
Yeah, they've had some funny movies.
Oh yeah,
the one where they're going through customs and the car is just sort of
marijuana car. Yeah.
Yeah, the smoke is so thick. Yeah.
It's funny. I've been watching bits and pieces of those, and I don't think they're going to get much traction with the youth of today.
No,
the humor is so 1960s that like kids watch it and they're just like, dude.
Yeah, well, kids can't laugh today. Kids can't laugh today because they can only laugh if they read a funny text.
Well, they have a different sense of humor, I think.
Yeah,
it's kind of more evolved in many respects.
It's because it's a humor of entitlement.
The humor of entitlement. Boy, that's got to sound like it comes with all kinds of innuendo. And,
you know what? Let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
Tommy or Cheech Marin.
Cheech Marin. Yeah. Freedom Unleashed is saying that he is a happy Canada Royalty shareholder. So one of our regular guests, Freedom Unleashed, is a happy Canada Royalty shareholder. So congratulations, Canada Royalty, for hanging on. Now,
okay.
I think that, like I say, I think that's going to be a great one. Somebody's asking us about LGC Capital. Well, yeah, we don't know that much about them, and they're in Jamaica. And personally, I'm not really thrilled about the Jamaican market. 3 million people in Jamaica. Where's the trade? Show me where the trade is. First of all, you're never going to put the illicit market out of business in Jamaica, I can assure you. So that's why I don't really get excited about LGC. I don't see anything there. Let's see, what else we got here? All right. Nobody had any questions for Alison. Oh, she's talking. Freedom Unleashed had a great question, but unfortunately she's gone now. Hopefully she finds a missing stone. Diamond, yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Excuse me. You know, this is the thing. I smoked a big vape this morning on the way in, and it got me sneezing. It was only CBD, as it was like, I'm not going to get a good buzz on before I start working.
Why would you even smoke it?
Well, because I've been running a little clinical trial on myself now for the last couple of weeks, where I'm experimenting with different dosages, and finding out, you know, where the limits of functionality and
I've been running a
through
clinical trial. You've been doing it for a couple months?
Yeah.
I've been doing it for about 30 years.
Yeah, well, so let's see your notes.
Yeah. I forgot how to write.
See, I've got notes. I'm making notes.
I've got nodes.
Smoked 50% CBD, 2% THC vape at 9 a.m., 3 hits. Deep lungfuls. Hot boxed the bathroom.
Deep lungfuls.
Deep lungfuls.
Deep lungfuls.
Well, because you...
That sounds like a Pippi's name.
Well,
Deep lungful.
A Pippi? What's a Pippi?
That's
Pippi Longstocking? Pippi McPew?
A hippie from the past. A Pippi.
A hippie from the past. A Pippi. Did you just make that up?
Yeah.
We got to get some more Pippies on the show.
Pippies.
Yeah. Pippi.
Back in the old day, that's what they used to call great grandfathers and really old people. They call them your Pippi.
Pippi.
And
what culture
so the
is that?
French community, French descent, and my mother told me that my friend John, his Pippi died, and I thought she meant that his wee-wee died. That's what I thought. I was only about 5.
First of all, Ed, if you're going to talk about your genitals,
but
you have to do so in a sort of dry clinical tone, like CNN. Well, I assumed he was talking about his genitalia, but
or
his pee-pee
or his penis.
Or his penis.
Yeah, but we don't come from such erudite
stock. Good point. We're
more potatoes and cabbage
and beef. Beef, gotta have beef with the potatoes.
Well, beef was a little
steak
expensive.
and potatoes.
A little expensive.
A little expensive.
He used to go over to the neighbor's farm and
have you ever
take
had
one down at
Kobe
night.
Beef?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, what did you think of that?
Fatty.
Fatty, yeah, that's
very
what I
fatty.
thought. I ordered some down in California because it was $90 for a 6-ounce piece. It was like shimmering waves of fat with little specks of beef in it.
Were you on an expense account?
Well, kind of. No, I was on an expensive account.
No, you're an expensive account. I was just going to say, Jesus.
It was an expensive account.
Oh, we're laughing at our own
for
joke. Yeah, an expensive account.
Boy, are we funny today.
Is it okay? Can I submit an expensive account soon?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? It's 4:32. We were supposed to be done by now.
Okay.
So what do you think? You're going to be in here tomorrow?
You know what I think we could do to the name? And I love Midas Letter RAW, but I'm thinking Midas Letter RAW Drawl. And you just because it's got raw in drawl, and drawl is that sort of. Never mind. I'm not trying to,
Anyways, how did you like that guest lineup today? Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
It's only going to get better from here on in. We have Alison Gordon has actually planning her own show. So this is going to be a show without Ed, without me, without any of this Midas Letter nonsense. It's all going to be Alison. She's going to come up with her own show. That should be launching sometimes towards the end of the summer. We have Mac Daddy Market Maker Donnie Greco starting his own show.
Now I just spoke to Donnie today. He wants to come in and be the color coordinator.
The color coordinator?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, you know how they have color coordinator, color commentary.
Oh, I don't know what you mean.
Well, when they in sports, for instance, they have commentators, and they say one of them's the color commentator. Did you not hear that? You've never heard that? Yeah, that's a fact.
I'm not a sports audience
aficionado.
guy. Well, I'm an aficionado, but if I'm not in the game, then I'm certainly not watching.
Yeah.
I only watch sports when I'm playing.
Really?
No, I don't actually watch a lot of sports. And these days, I'm not playing a lot of sports, except whatever sport this might be. The sport of conversation. Anyways, Ed, we're going to wrap it up here today. You're here tomorrow?
Yeah.
And so, who else we got tomorrow?
Did you want to do some more charts, or?
No, it's 4:30.
Okay.
Fraser wants to go home.
Okay. Fraser's left the building.
Well, he hasn't yet.
No,
He's
but he
waiting
wants
for
to
us.
leave the building.
He wants to leave the building. Anyways, so if you liked the show today, feel free to subscribe and like and give us thumbs up. And send us kudos. Ask us some questions. We're hard up for subject matter. Suggest guests, suggest show topics. We've now got suggest questions for Justin B. Marshall down there in Monterey County, California. He's going to be a wealth of information about the strains and what's going on down there. And yeah, generally you can ask us anything, anytime, anywhere, and we will answer those questions eventually. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.